And welcome to an exciting episode. Tanner Fetch joined by Steven Stamp. And of course, this is the 2021 mock draft of the Panther City Lacrosse Club. Stamper and I are going to go through our picks as if we were Bob Hamley, the GM of Panther City. We might have some similarities and we might have some differences. So let's kind of see where we collide. Make sure you stay tuned for this and the rundown section at the end. Like, share, hit the little bell on the top or the bottom, wherever it may be, and stay in the loop, stay connected. This is Lacrosse Link.
Beautiful play, Aaron Gray Eyes. He is having himself a tournament.
So he's definitely physical, athletic, and somebody to be watching for.
In the middle, it just bounces off, but it's picked up and scored.
For the biggest, that's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it.
Hey, lacrosse friends, as Tanner said to open, we are playing Bob Hamley today. He and I will be making our selections, Tanner and I, that is, for the Panther City Lacrosse Club, one from each team. One important thing to note is that nobody's going to be taking players who are free agents, unrestricted free agents, and can reject the franchise tag. You can just sign them. You don't need to pick them. It'd be just a waste of a draft pick. So guys that might be tempting when you see them on the list, like a Dane Doby, Dan Coates, Cody Jamieson, Brody Merrill, Jeff Shatler, Dan Dawson, none of those guys are getting picked. So if you wonder why we're not picking them, that's why. If you want them, you can just sign them. And if you pick them, they don't have to sign with you. You can't tag them, franchise tag them. So we get that out of the way. We are going to go back and forth. We will start with Albany, the first team alphabetically, and I will start with my pick. And then we're just going to go back and forth. I'll announce mine, then Tanner will announce his. One thing, and then we'll go the other way with Tanner doing Buffalo. One thing to keep in mind, this is a mock draft, so we should feel free to mock each other for our picks. So,
that's part of the gig, right?
Right? There may be some mocking. So away we go, and I'm going to start with the Albany Firewolves. And tricky one, I thought of Jordan Durston because what he can bring to the game is pretty important on that left side, lefty forwards, grit and everything. I thought of Charlie Kitchen, the youngster who has a really high ceiling, but I'm going to go with another lefty forward, Jean-Luc Chetner. I think he's a great two-way player. He's a good two-way player who I think can play a really important role for a team, and I can just see Panther City starting off with Chetner.
Here's one that we picked the same guy. I also picked Jean-Luc Chetner as well. He's got 49 points in 22 games in the 2 seasons that he's played. I think he has a lot of potential coming up, and obviously a proven track record so far with his 2 seasons under his belt. So he's 5'9" from BC. He knows what it takes to win. I picked him as well. So this is one where we both are on the same page. It was hard to decide on that one for sure. I didn't know exactly what direction, and that's where I landed on that one. So, and second pick, Buffalo Bandits. I had a tough decision here on this one as well. A lot of mine were tough decisions, to be quite honest, but I went with Garrett Billings, the forward. He's 6'0" from Langley, 1986 born player, veteran player, 686 points in 125 games. That right there says it all to me. A guy who could put the ball in the net. Plus, he has playoff experience. 5 playoff runs under his belt, 49 points in 10 games. So puts the ball in the net. That's why I went with Garrett.
We have a very different pick here in Buffalo. I'm probably not picking anyone over 30. I'm still waffling on one later in the round, but I'm going with a lot younger team, so I'm not going to pick Garrett Billings. My tough decision was between Jordan Sturris, who was taken last year in the draft and hasn't even gotten to suit up with Buffalo. But I went with Brent Noseworthy, who was taken in the first round the year before, a very high upside defender. He was a goalie for most of his career, right up through midget, didn't switch over until he was later in his career and played defense transition. So he's still kind of learning a lot, but lots of talent, lots of upside. And Brent Noseworthy, to me, is the start of a big, tough, mean defense core that could really help this club out. We're going to move on to Calgary. And for me, Calgary may have been the toughest because I thought there were a bunch of players who were all very enticing. And I thought about, grab a goaltender. Young Landon Kells, I think, is a franchise goalie in the making. But I didn't go that way because I'm taking my goalies elsewhere. I thought Liam Leclerc, defender I really like, Anthony Kalinich, Ethan Tyser. So there's some guys, but I want to get some offense. I'm taking Patrick Dodds, who I think with Panther City having the #1 pick in the entry draft this year, they're going to get a righty forward. It's going to be Jonathan Donville or Ryan Lansbury, I would assume. So I'm going to get Patrick Dodge, who can be a #2 and really grow as the team grows.
I also went with another forward, a little bit younger this time though. I went with Dan Taylor. Again, 200-pound lefty. He's from Calgary, Alberta. He's played in the Rocky Mountain, developed there. He's won titles with Calgary and Saskatchewan, although he wasn't a starting player in Saskatchewan, but he was on the team nonetheless. He's only played these 2 seasons right now, and he's got, 36 points in 10 games last year, and the season before 46 points in 18 games. Those are the 2 that I focused on. He did play more seasons, but those were, now he's developed. Now he's finding the back of the net. He's finding a role on a team. So I did go with Dan Taylor on this one. I really like what he brings to the table. Speaking of my older players, I did pick some older veteran players because I know that we can pick younger guys in the draft moving forward, but I wanted to put a winning team on the field right away, win the crowd over, because that's going to be a big thing about staying for me in Panther City, right? You got to win the crowd over with a winning team right off the hop. But I did pick some young guys as well. So again, with Colorado Mammoth, I went with defenseman Dylan Kinnear. So yeah, younger fella. There was some names on there, but he kind of jumped at me. I wanted to add some backdoor quality players to my squad here early. He hasn't had a lengthy career, but he has proven in the shortened season last year that he was reliable. He's 6'0", played in the Rocky Mountain. He's got size. He finds the loose balls. He's Minto Cup experienced, and he's got his pro experience with 9 goals, 8 assists in 17 games last year as a defenseman.
You said you were going. Sorry, you said you were going with some older guys. I thought you were going to say Joey Capito, who's 31 years old, nicknamed Lightning because of his speed. I certainly considered Capito. I thought about Dylan Kinnear as well, who is a really talented young player. Thought about Brett McIntyre that Colorado took in the draft last year, but I wanted to get some forwards. Lefty forwards are tough to get, so I took Chris Wardle from Colorado. He's a 40-50 point a season guy. I think give him a chance to play a bigger role because he's always been a supporting player. I think he could really take off. Okay, we're moving on to Georgia. And for me, this was a relatively easy pick. I did think about Connor Sellers, but to me, I would have probably taken Kevin Orleman in either of the last couple of expansion drafts. I'm taking Kevin Orleman, a potential franchise goalie who you can, rely on, throw him out there. Again, not too proven, hasn't played a lot, but I think he could be very good. I'm taking Orleman.
I went with a goaltender as well.
Let me guess, you took the Saskatchewan kid.
No, I went with an older goaltender, a veteran goaltender, Mike Poulin. I picked him because you know what? You bring in that guy right now, and then you draft a young guy who can develop under Mike for a few years here, and you're set, right? But you need that winning goalie right off the hop. One who has a proven track record. He averages 11.57 goals against. He's won championships, 99 career wins. He's pushing the 100 career win column. And he also has 5,000 career saves, which puts him 7th all time in NLL goalies. He has what it takes. I want a guy in there, and I'll bring in the young guy to be mentored by Mike in 3 to 4 years here, and they'll be ready to go.
Okay. He's also a UFA who can reject the franchise tag. So again, my feeling is you could just sign him if you want, and you can pick somebody else from Georgia.
Okay, so that might have been my error. I didn't see him on the list there.
Okay.
So.
You gotta read carefully.
I thought I had it all nailed down, but nonetheless, okay. I guess Mike's still my guy.
All right. You're up with Halifax.
Halifax Thunderbirds. Switched it up here. I kind of went forward heavy a little bit at the start, except for Kinnear and Poulin, but Ryan Benesh, 200 pounds from Kitchener, Ontario, proven leader. He's played in the NLL Cup, 2-time All-Pro first team. Okay, he's got 1,061 points in 212 games in regular season, 85 points in 17 playoff games. He finds the back of the net, and I need that. So if we score goals, we win games, right? So he was my guy from Halifax.
Yeah, I love Benny, but I'm not picking a guy in his mid-30s who has a fairly new career back in Ontario and his young family. I just didn't go with a lot of older players, and I don't know, maybe I should have leaned that way a bit more, but to me, actually, this choice I thought was fairly easy because there were only 3 players from last year's first round who weren't protected. And the first of them is Ethan Riggs. He's big, he's strong. They liken him to another Graham Hossick, which I think might be a bit much because, I mean, Hoss obviously is very distinctive in his play. I mean, he's incredible. But I think Ethan Riggs has a lot of upside, and I'm making a big, nasty back end, and Ethan Riggs is going to be my guy for that. New York. To me, New York, I honestly looked at a dozen guys. There was no one to me that jumped out and said, you got to pick this guy. You got to take this one guy. But there was one that excites me, having gotten a chance to see him play in the Arena Lacrosse League and really show his stuff. And I thought he did pretty well when he got a chance wherever he's played. So I'm taking Matt Marinier, again, big, tough D. Honestly, you can look. I looked at Ty Thompson, Derek Downs, Kieran McCardle, are 3 lefty forwards, 3 ready forwards: Jake Fox, Travis Longboat, Connor Kelly. I thought about other D: Mac Mitchell, Daryl Robertson, Ethan Schott, Adam Peroni. A bunch of guys you could consider, but I went with Bernier. I think he's got a lot of upside, and I think he's going to be good pretty soon.
I went with one of the names you mentioned. So you didn't name a lot of names though, but
Travis Longboat.
Yeah, Travis Longboat was my guy, 6 Nations Ontario product. Only 1 season under his belt, but again, this is a guy that can go with some of my veteran presence and be mentored and develop there. So I wanted a balance of both. He did notch 27 points in 9 games and scooped 40 loosies. So that's definitely showing that he has what it takes to play at this level. Ontario Junior A, he tallied 432 points in 121 games as well. And playoffs, 154 points, 50 games. I think that's enough said right there. He has what it takes for sure. So
I like Longboat. I don't think that's a bad pick.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. He jumped out at me, and I couldn't decide what direction to go with anybody else. He was my guy right on my radar. As I switch things up here now with my next pick, Philadelphia Wings, I went with somebody close to Stamper's home, Corey Vittorelli, Peterborough product. Yeah. Career points, 354, 133 games, 42 playoff points in 23 games. He weighs 220 pounds, throws his weight around, finds the back of the net. Again, another guy who can work with guys like Travis Longboat and help them develop, but brings that veteran winning presence, goal scoring presence right off the hop.
I love Dogger. I've gotten to watch him play a ton. He is dynamite around the net, but again, in the mid-30s, never known as a gym rat. You will acknowledge that. And after a year and a half or so off, what kind of shapes you're going to be in. And he was getting close to the end. So I went way to the other end of the spectrum. I went way young here. To me, I took one of the other guys who was not protected after being taken in last year's first round. Jackson Subak, I think, is a force waiting to happen. Another guy who's developing his game, playing major series lacrosse in Brooklyn and played a lot of senior B. He just played a ton of senior lacrosse when he got the chance. Would play wherever they asked him to play, do what they asked him to do. He's gritty, he's mean, great kid, but on the floor, he is nasty. Also, his dad and I were both rowers for trying out for the Canadian national team. So got that connection, but Jackson earns this one on his own. He has a lot of upside. Rochester, to me, is a tricky one because I didn't think there were a lot of players that really jumped out to me, but there were some that you can definitely add. I looked at a couple of guys from around this area. Dan Mickle as a lefty forward and Doug Utting as a defender. But again, they're both guys who've had to earn their way gradually into the league. But I ultimately thought, I don't think they're the guys I want to go with. I thought about John Wagner, but then I thought, I need to get some offense. I didn't think there was a ton of young offense available. I went with Phil Caputo because he can play a role, various roles in your offense. I think Caputo can really help as a depth forward, and I added him.
Well, I know what Stamper's going to think already with my pick here, but I went with Paul Dawson. He's going to bring that veteran experience to my back door. I got lots of time to draft young guys, right? I want right now guys who have proven track records. So funny thing is, Paul started as a goaltender, transitioned into a defender, but when I watch his mic'd up clips and I watch him play, he has a really commanding presence on the floor, really real leadership role with his teammates. They well respected. And that's something that I'm going to need right off the gate. there's still a bunch of free agents too. So I'm getting these veterans, right? But I can still sign free agents that are younger and going to grow with the team as well. So this was my guy that I picked there, and he's got a lot of weight behind him, 237, 6'5". So he's fierce, he's ferocious, he's still got it.
And he's a beauty.
He is, he really is. Yeah. Great to talk to you too. So San Diego Seals, my next pick. Jeremy Noble is who I went with. Yeah. Noble spent his first year in San Diego as pivotal piece in the Seals offense, but was acquired later on by the Mammoth. The Orangeville product, he was second overall selection in the 2014 NLL draft. He's got 299 points in only 77 games. I think he's bringing a lot to the table there offensively. So something that I could add is one of my offensive weapons.
Yeah, I like Jerry Noble. I also thought about Casey Jackson, because he is just electric, but he's had a lot of injuries and he's in his 30s, only with a couple of seasons in the league, really, because he was a bit later coming in. So I wound up going with Nick Damoud, the goaltender, and that'll give me Orleman and Damoud. I can play them each for 9 games this season, see who I like best, protect them next year from the Vegas expansion draft, and expose the other one or trade him before it gets to that point. So I'm taking Damoud. Now, we come to Saskatchewan, and I'm making my decision right now. I haven't been able to make a decision. I really like Matt Hossack. I think he's a very good player, but this is where I am going to go with a UFA, but he can't reject, so you can franchise him. Chris Corbeil, captain of the Rush. He's going to be my captain the moment he is a Panther City Lacrosse Club player, and he's 33 years old, still fit as a fiddle. Great player, great leader. He's going to set the tone in my locker room and on the floor. So I'm going to take Corbeil. And if I don't make him my captain, I might just trade him. Maybe, somebody back east, especially where he's living, has his family and working. There's got to be some people interested. Maybe I can get some picks. The one thing I did check into was if I pick him and lose him as a free agent, do I get the compensatory picks? And I don't believe I would. Plus, the formula is changing. It's not going to be as rich a haul for players, especially that didn't play for the team or didn't play long for the team. But I'm going to take Corbeil. He'll either play or I'll get some nice picks for him.
So with my pick for Saskatchewan Rush, also picked Chris Corbeil. You know what? When I worked with the Saskatchewan Rush Club, I got to see Chris on and off the floor, and he has tremendous ability. Again, he was still confidence in those around him. He scores a lot of transition goals too, which is awesome, right? He picks the ball with speed, catches them on the fast break. His Twitter name is I Love Lucy's. So he's hungry for the loose balls out there on the floor. And I think with him and Paul on the back door, there's a lot of veteran presence there to help my young guys grow. So I think I got a solid back door with Kinnear as well back there. So, and Poole in between the pipes. I'm feeling good about it. So moving on to my next pick with Toronto Rock. I went with 1993 born forward from Six Nations, Johnny Paulus. He played his junior A career for the Arrows. He's won a Minto Cup. He was the Minto Cup MVP in 2014. He is an animal. The Paulus family is a well-respected name from Six Nations. They are great at lacrosse. I actually played against Johnny in national tournaments several times. So we were just a year apart. He has 417 points in 141 games in the National Lacrosse League. I'm relying on him to bring some offensive threat there at my front gate.
If I could have gotten Marshall Paulus, I would have taken him in a heartbeat, but Saskatchewan wisely protected him. I am going to go with a little streak of lightning out of Nipissing University, Scott Dominey. I think he was fantastic when he got his chance in Toronto, really earned his stripes. He's just an interesting dude. He's a great, fast player, really responsible, has that Orangeville background. I had him on Boxla Beat last year, and I wanted to talk about a play, and I went back and watched it because Nick Rose hit him with a breakout pass, and he was so far down the floor, I assumed he took off. He leaked a bit. And then I watched the replay a few times, and I pointed out to him, I said, you didn't go until you knew he had the ball. He's like, oh, yeah. I'm not going anywhere until we've got the ball. And he's so fast and so smart. He got out, got open, caught the pass. And they've been working on that in practice. He said Rosie had a nude stick. So they spent about 100 passes getting it dialed in. So he said, when he threw me that pass, I had to catch it. I had to catch that pass. He went and scored. It was, so I'm going with Scott Dominey, who I think is a little bolt of lightning.
I like that little quote you grabbed there too, because it's so important to stick around and help your goalie defense and not break for the fast break too early, which a lot of guys tend to do and leave their team vulnerable back there, right? So
100%.
I respect that. I need more defensemen like that.
Right? And still get up the floor.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap up with Vancouver, and, a lot of players kind of getting a bit older, not a lot of guys that make you think, yeah, I want to grab him and fly him in, but I'm going to go with some more grit, some more size and toughness in my back end with Owen Barker. I really liked watching him play with Maple Ridge Barrards in the Mann Cup. I think he's just playing on the line. You know, the guys who get in your face are annoying, you hate to play against them, they just get under your skin. He's one of those, but he doesn't take a ton of needless penalties. I think he's got just enough discipline. He'll take some. He will take some, but that's the price you pay. But I think he's got enough sandpaper, but enough smartness to play a pretty effective role.
That's not a bad pick, actually. I do like that selection there. I did see him in his now teammate go toe-to-toe in Saskatchewan there. Now I'm drawing a blank here. Injured this year, past season. Hurt his leg.
It's so long since last season, it's hard to remember. It really is.
Anyways, go toe-to-toe, and that's Owen Barker isn't afraid to step up for his teammates and handle business. He's good on the back door. I think that was a good selection there. It's going to come to me. It'll come to me later.
Okay.
So now I got Vancouver Warriors. My pick, Justin Salt for the transition player. 100 points, 128 games. He's speedy. He's fast. Finds the back of the net as well, and I do like that. That's what I like about Chris Corbeil as well. Not only do they have size and toughness, but they can also put the ball in the net. Because you know what? Now being a defenseman is also about being able to transition and or put the ball in the net if you can, if that opportunity is there. I think that's the way the game is going, is having more guys that can play both instead of just having stay-at-home defenders and that's the role, right? So I did pick him, and I think now my well-rounded back door with Chris Corbeil, Dawson, Kinnear, and Poulin. I got some age, some youth. I'm feeling good about it. I really feel good about the back door here.
I feel like very different approaches, very different philosophies. I've got a much younger team. You've got a much more experienced team. If I had to pick whose team based on this, obviously it's going to be the entry draft or whatever, but based on this as the core, whose team would win more games in their first year, I'd go with your team. But I feel like my team's going to be better in 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I am with you on that for sure. 100% agree. I just think it's important to win the fans over right away, right? Get some wins under your belt, and then hopefully you're drafting well later on, and or you could trade some of these veteran guys as well for teams who are making a playoff push and different things like that. You might be able to get some youth for them, but I think right away, if you lose the crowd, and we want franchise to stick around and really draw people in, right? So you got to win right away. That was the thing with Saskatchewan as well, and I think with Halifax bringing winning teams there puts butts in the seats right away, and that's important. So
one thing we didn't mention, and maybe we should have, is that we're not imagining any trades, but surely there will be. I talked with Bob Hamley in last week's show, of course, and we talked about it. Sometimes a team doesn't want you to take someone, so they give you someone to take a different player. Sometimes you take someone, you trade them back to the team. Sometimes a team wants a player that's unprotected. You pick him for them and trade him to another team. So there are going to be trades, and there are going to be lots of things happening that would change the way this works out. So we didn't take any of that into effect. So we'll set up a poll so you can vote on whose draft you like, mine or Fetchy's.
Come on, it's me.
All right, that'll do it for the draft. Hang on for the rundown next.
Hi, this is Jaden with Al Anderson Source for Sports. Excited to tell you that we got all our new lacrosse product in for this upcoming season. Whether you're playing box or field, our lacrosse experts are going to make sure we get you into the right equipment to elevate your game. At Al Anderson Source for Sports, we know our stuff.
Welcome to the rundown. Lots of interesting stuff happening in the world of lacrosse. not much that has more grab appeal or headline appeal than happening in the PLL. So we're going to look at the up and the down. The down, of course, the Matt Gaudette, Austin Stotts situation. Both have now had their contracts terminated by PLL after, and you know what, go follow Dan Arestia on Twitter. He has laid it out in the thread, but some crazy stuff. If you hadn't heard, he's been reporting it from the beginning, but word is they got in a drunken altercation in a hotel lobby, at a game site for the PLL. There's word that, Blaze Reardon's father was there. There's talk, all this talk, and Arestia has been reporting that. And of course, it wound up with the end of Matt Gaudette's finger coming off. So they're both out. The good news for the PLL, and they need it after that, obviously, is players are being removed from the unavailable to travel list, headlined by Jeff Teat making his debut with Atlas this weekend. So some big news there, and obviously a lot of excitement coming in with those players.
Well, that's exciting, actually, because Jeff Teat is a really, really good lacrosse player, and I want to see how he shapes up in the PLL world, right, with the talent that's there. And I did see that video of the missing finger. I don't know the alleged incidents. Like, I know just as much as you know from what's being reported. I wasn't there, obviously, so it's hard for me to say. Wasn't a pleasant video to see,
No.
But and it's tough to lose your contract, get your contract terminated, right? That's a tough way to go out. Now I'm going to transition us into more field lacrosse. Gary Gate, again, we did announce already in a rundown section that he is the coach, but he did just go through a press release, and the kind of big impact statement that he said is that he wants to bring this program to a heightened level of chemistry and take the program to the next offensive level. Creating the chemistry is what he remembers it being like, and something that he wants to bring to Syracuse again. So I thought that was important. The press release, it was very lengthy, but I would recommend watching it. I'll post it on the site for you guys. You can watch it right then and there. How's that sound?
That sounds great. And Gary Gate also announced signing Dave Petromala to be his defensive coordinator. So Gate will take care of the O. Petromala, another legendary coach, takes care of the D. So they're doing pretty well. And another big step for Syracuse, naming Kayla Trainer, who was a 4-time All-American for the Orange. Then she went into coaching, and as an assistant coach at Boston College, helped them get to 3 straight national championship games. She is now the head coach for the Syracuse women. So some big news there as well.
I want to talk about Las Vegas. They're playing out of the Mandalay Bay downtown. I think that's important, right? Obviously, you want to be right in the hub of Vegas. If fans have to travel, I've been to an Ottawa Senators game, and you have to travel to the Canada Village just outside of downtown, and it takes you half an hour, 45 minutes to get there. You can lose a lot of fans from that potential travel, right? You got to make it convenient for fans to get to your event. And, if they're on the fence, on the line, and you're half an hour away, you're getting them, right? And I think also that was why my draft thing as well. I wanted to put a winning team on the floor. We got to win fans over in the National Lacrosse League, and it starts with things like this, putting the arena location, your quality of team, important things to get that half fan who's not quite there, or doesn't have their foot all the way into the door, get them in there. Once they get a taste of it, they're going to love it, right? So I thought I would share that, and obviously the ownership as well. They're going to do some amazing things. We already did discuss that, but now it's officially announced who's all on the board, and they're going to bring a lot to the table.
And I'm going to wrap up talking about Sleeping Warrior being released. It's a documentary covering the Kenyan team for the Women's U19 World Championship in Peterborough. And I can tell you from having been there, I called one of the games of the tournament and was around, and there was a lot of excitement about this team, and their story is fantastic. The first African team to compete in a World Lacrosse Championship, and the story of these girls and what they came through and what they had to overcome to get there. I mean, one of the big things that is talked about in the show, and I have had a chance to talk to Ashley Aitken, who was the liaison for that team, is a friend of mine. She's a very she's a community leader in this area, and she talks about how the girls would come to practice because then they knew they'd get a meal that day, and that wasn't always the case at home. So it's a terrific movie. Go check it out. Sleeping Warrior. Go to World Lacrosse. And Storm Trentham, the coach for the team, just a tremendous leader for that group. She's put a lot of work in Africa, both outside of lacrosse and as a leader for this team. And I'm going to have Storm and Ashley on Boxla Beat my podcast that is part of the Lacrosse Link family in the near future. So keep an eye out for that one. It's a great story. Go check out the video. And yeah, it's a pretty cool story.
That will bring us to the close of this episode. Tanner Fetch, Steven Stamp signing off. Thank you so much. And again, don't forget to vote in the polls. Which team's better?
For
We
me.
appreciate you. me. Pick me. Come on. And we thank you so much for joining us again in the episode. Share, like, comment for sure. You know what? If you missed the poll, you don't get to the poll on our website, leave a comment. We'll respond there. I hope to see my name just slide in there. But thanks so much,
Dropping.
fans. Yeah, mic drop. Boom. We will see you all again soon here on another episode of Lacrosse.